We are back again with another edition of Late Hits, Hot Stove Edition here as we are spring training in full force right now. Baseball just a couple weeks away for the draft and less than a month before we really get into the regular season opening up on April 4th, Yankees-Red Sox on Sunday Night Baseball. We're going to go touch with it. We talked with the American League last episode. We're going to get into the National League, start off the National League East. Another tough division. Like every division tough this year. It's really well spread out. Look at this right here, Jeff. Florida Diamonds, an extra 2nd round pick, an extra 6th round pick, and an extra 8th round pick. So that's some damage you can do right there early on in the draft. And on top of that, coming back with some of the players that he might have, you know, a guy like Nate McLeod, can move him up from round 20 to round 15. Nelson Cruz, a guy you can draft in round 10 who hits some home runs. You know, lock in that catcher, Victor Martinez, the number 2 catcher on the board, possibly in round as a tier 5, or Chris Carpenter, a guy who could have won a Cy Young Award. You know, one thing that hurt him last year was the Brandon Webb. I don't think we'll see Brandon Webb going in the 1st round this year, but he's back this year, so he's a player to keep an eye out. But that may have been one of the moves. That draft pick may have been one of the ones that sent Lords of the owner Bill Sproul into the
bottom.
To the bottom where he started. And he actually, when he started trading out and making those draft pick moves for next season, he was actually still in the running.
Yeah.
But he's got himself loaded with some draft picks, some nice few keepers you can mention it, you can keep in there, and really going to be a tough team to beat and see what he does with those draft picks. And then you got the two owners that battled it out last year, John Thompson, Mike Devine, Collapse and Queens, the same division. Were they last year battling each other?
I can't remember.
I'm not sure if they were, but they seem to be battling for something last year. I don't know why.
They're very both. I think what it is, those teams are both very competitive each year, and they're very, you know, they do it. They draft good teams, and they make great waiver wire moves, and especially Thompson, he's always.
Yeah, it's like the minute one step ahead of everybody. Somebody gets hurt. Somebody's closer gets hurt.
Yeah.
This guy's going to be the new closer, and I saw 5 minutes ago on a SportsCenter update. Thompson's already picked him up.
Yeah.
Pisses me off. That's one of the reasons I don't like daily lineup changes. Looking at John's team over here. You know, Jared Jurgens is a guy you keep at round 15, possibly. He's got some injury concerns right now, but, you know, a nice player to have there. Denard Span could possibly be a round 10 guy. Denard Span is that 27-year-old. They talk about 27-year-olds being the year players really break out. He's had a couple decent years. A lot of speed. Gomez is gone to Minnesota. Denard Span's going to be the center fielder there all the time now. And, you know, Lindstrom was a closer last year. He's moved on to a different team. And then even you go into round. Who do you keep there in the 1st round? You have the ability to keep Mark Teixeira. You have the ability to take Ian Kinsler up there in the 1st round, who's definitely a 1st round candidate.
Yeah.
You know, 30 home runs and 30 stolen bases possibly. And like I said, the 2nd baseman, you got Utley, Kinsler, and then maybe Aaron Hill, and then they kind of drop off a little bit. So there's definitely some options there, which means one of those other guys could be on the move. Somebody could be looking at picking up one of those guys. Mike Devine as well, coming back. Cliff Lee, that draft pick's a year ago, is going to come back and help him for the next several years. This year, Cliff Lee gets kept in the 15th round instead of the 20th round. I can tell you that the Oscar Gamblers did inquire about Cliff Lee with a possible trade, and it was shot right down. Cliff Lee in the 15th round. Matt Garza there is a possible 10th round keeper if he wants to. He's also got Posada. Jorge Posada, we talked about the catcher drop-off last episode. Maybe you lock in a catcher in round 10. I mean, Posada's a little up there in age, but you know you're going to get your 20 home runs, your 90 RBI, 25 home runs, 90 RBIs out of them. And then, you know, going up to the 1st round, the idea is, does he keep Miguel Cabrera again? You know, you're talking about a double 2nd-year keeper. Mm-hmm. It's hard to argue with Miguel Cabrera's statistics, and Miguel Cabrera is still a young player.
Yeah.
Rounding out the National League East, you got Joe Pry returning to widespread panic, and I know Jeff and Dan touched on those teams, but they got coming back a little bit last year, or last couple of episodes ago when we did the lottery pick. But looking at Joe Pry's team, Matt Holliday is a round 1 guy. Russell Martin could be a round 2 guy. Round 10, or Dustin Pedroia. I mean, I almost think you got to go Pedroia there. But, you know, it's hard to pass up on those catchers if you can lock them in. Even in the rounds 10, you got players like Scott Baker is a possibility there. And then moving on down, the rest of his I don't know if I'd keep anybody, but
Yeah.
you know, there's a reason why that team was towards the bottom, because they didn't have the greatest roster. But it'll be interesting to see how Joe Pry comes back after a year absence. And then we finally will go to the National League West. You got the Crazy Diamonds, you got the Jackholes, you got the Oscar Gamblers, and the Inglorious Bastards. And you know, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but as far as myself, Toby, and Mike, I feel really bad for Dan having to enter that division. So Dan definitely needs to come in and try to make some moves as far as getting some players go. And he's going to have to do it to the extent of draft picks. Well, if he's getting that good of a player in return, where he could possibly be getting maybe the #1 pitcher on everybody's draft board, and then you lock that in and you build from there, and then you lock in another nice solid player in the 10th round that you can build on to. Maybe make a move for Ellsbury that we've heard rumors about, and all of a sudden you got three players you can build your team around, and you just got a smart draft after that. And then the rest of that division, it's going to be a tough division. The Jackholes, former champion, I want to say Crimson Glory, Crazy Diamonds, the Commissioner League, and myself. I've been in the playoffs. You know, this isn't football, so I'm actually generally in the playoffs. Let's take a look at Crazy Diamonds. Chase Utley, you see him right there, and you say that's a no-brainer keeper. We've heard rumors from owner Toby Pry that he plans on keeping Javier Vasquez around 5 as now a Yankee pitcher. And then as you look at round 10, you know, Johnny Damon's out there. Ryan Dempster is a name I've heard that Toby Pry has definitely talked about keeping, and there has been some trade rumors involving even a guy like Jay Bruce around 15, that maybe a guy like Belko Boys may get in there and make a move for that tier 4 keeper.
That's a nice little outfielder.
And Dexter Fowler was one of those draft picks last year along the lines of Jason Haywood and Andrew McCutcheon that was basically a draft pick last year for this year. Guy steals a lot of bases. So Toby Pry has definitely some people to build on. Mike Cooper with the Jackholes is going to have his work cut out for him because he did try to make a run at it last year, but at the expense of giving up some draft picks.
That's going to hurt, I think. I think he doesn't realize it yet, but I think that draft day, when he's sitting on that clock and it goes,
damn, I don't have a second round pick.
Yeah.
Damn, I don't have.
Yeah. He's going to be sitting there going, I don't like this.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, one thing with baseball, I don't have a 6th round pick. I don't have a 2nd round pick. One thing that baseball does is you can draft guys in round 20.
Yeah.
Who are gonna,
and by the end of the season, you have a whole different team from when you originally drafted.
Right. And if you draft smart, you got guys that are going to be contributing later on. And looking at Mike's team, as far as keepers, Mike was involved in some trade talks early on. Does he come back with Johan Santana again? Or does he possibly take a look at a guy like Justin Morneau or Jimmy Rollins, all in 1-1? All could be. You can't make an argument against one of those guys being a 1st round draft pick.
No, not at all.
Tier 2, you know, he was trying to move Billingsley because he's got a guy named Josh Johnson right there. You know, even a name like Adrian Beltre is a possible, you know, in the 5th round, moving to the Red Sox, hitting in a better lineup, moving from a pitcher's park to a hitter's park. You know, that's a guy, maybe a sleeper that somebody drafts, and we'll see where he goes with that, but I would have to say it's hard not to draft Josh Johnson. And you got Brandon Inge, you can bring him back. Brandon Inge was great for him because he was a 3rd baseman, getting catcher availability last year. Won't have that this year, but
it's kind of annoying to watch it.
Yeah. And then final team to talk about would be my own team, and I've been out pretty active as far as the trades going, making the Wainwright deal, but some decisions to be had. Who do I keep, Halliday or Lincecum in the 1st round? And I'm going to wait to see if there's any injuries before pulling the plug on a deal there. Round 5, I've pretty much locked in Adam Wainwright barring injury, but I like Raul Ibanez, and I actually like Mike Scherzer, so if something happened there, I have no problem keeping him Max Scherzer. The guy strikes out a lot of people. Round 10, Shin-Soo Choo, Jason Worth has moved on, but Shin-Soo Choo, Pablo Sandoval are there. Round 15, Gordon Beckham and David Price are there. Round 20, Trevor Cahill's there, who was a guy I just drafted to see how he's going to do this year. So that's the Hot Stove Report. There's some action certainly to be heard from here in the coming weeks as we get a little bit closer to draft day. Just want to remind you to tune in again very soon. We're going to have a special edition Hot Stove Report as Jeff will be broadcasting live from spring training in Orlando and in Tampa outside George Steinbrenner Field and Atlanta Braves spring training sites for an episode of Hot Stove. Mad Monks Fantasy Baseball late hits from spring training coming up in just a few short days. For Jeff, I'm Chris. We'll talk to you soon.